Welcome to today's webcast. My name is Ryan Knight. I'm the president of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network, and it's my pleasure on behalf of ACBN, the BBPA, the Black Business Professional Association, and CAMC, the Canadian Aboriginal and Minority Supplier Council, to welcome all of our participants and our speaker to our first webcast in a four-part series. I acknowledge that we have guests joining us from around the country today, so depending on your location, good morning or good afternoon. And 2020, as you know, has been a very interesting year, a combination of the impacts of the pandemic, the reopening of the economy, coupled with the Black Lives Matter movement. All of these factors have set the stage for rejigging the economy to position the opportunity for economic inclusion. I feel like the time is now. And in particular, this speaks to inclusion of Black businesses as part of the supply chain of corporate Canada and the Canadian government. So to date, we know that this topic has been broached at numerous economic tables. To facilitate this idea becoming a reality, it is our intent to lay the foundation for strategic alliances among small to medium-sized Black businesses for the purposes of coming together as one to bid on larger pieces of business. And that step is starting today. If you know me, I am not about talk, it's about action. And that first step of action is really this capability statement. So for those of you who joined us for our introductory webinar on June the 24th, we laid out the four-part webinar series to assist in building capacity and laying the foundation to create strategic alliances. So the series will be as follows. Session 1, which is today, developing your capability statement. Session 2, understanding your financial position. Session 3, your industry alignment and partnership readiness. And then session 4, becoming your social media and your marketing really analysis. So today we hear from an expert on how we create your capability statement, but a bit of housekeeping before we begin. So we would like this webcast to be as interactive as possible. So if you do have questions, please put it in the chat box or the Q&A box. And you'll see it on your screen, I believe at the bottom. If you tap the screen, you'll be able to chat and put your question in there. We'll be monitoring it. And so there will be specific areas after Cynthia finishes a section that will check the chat for questions. And importantly, to achieve the best sound quality of all, please keep your microphones on mute. We will do our best if you unmute by accident to mute it for you, but please at the current moment, mute your microphones. And so today's session will be recorded and available on ACBN's website, BBPA's website, and CAMC as well. And so if you do have anything that you want to go back and rewatch, it will be available for you. And at this time, I would now like to hand it over to the presenter of the day, Cynthia Dorrington, the CEO of Vail and Associates. And I would like to quickly read her bio. So Cynthia Dorrington is the president of Vail and Associates Human Resource Management and Consulting, Inc., established in 2004. Vail and Associates is a boutique consulting firm specializing in providing strategy and advisory services, as well as customized training and development for organizations. As president, Cynthia does consulting work with small to medium-sized organizations across various industry sectors, from startups to businesses undergoing growth, to mergers and acquisitions, with an emphasis on strategic positioning of its human resources and managing change. Expertise in areas such as organizational strategy, people strategy, diversity and inclusion, supplier strategy, change management, governance, performance management, as well as HR advisory services has allowed Vail and Associates the opportunity to provide consulting services to a number of clients locally, nationally, and internationally. I'm so glad to have Cynthia with us today. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Cynthia.
Thank you very much, folks, and welcome. I'm not sure if it's afternoon your time or morning, so either good afternoon or good morning, depending on your time zone. For the next little while, what we will be walking through in the slides that I'll be taking you through is really around your capability statement, understanding your capabilities as an organization and how you sell that. It's what I call your unique edge, because ultimately your business is a thriving business, but you need to make sure that you have all the tools necessary in order to move it forward. So what I'm going to do is really focus just on the capability statement. But most importantly, I think what you have to understand is what sets you apart from others. What does your business do? How do you do it? What sets you apart from others? There are some questions that you as a business owner will be asked throughout your time frame as a business owner, but this is one question that a lot of people will ask of you. What sets your business apart from others? And you have to understand how to answer that question, because that answer to that question is either the make or break. It's going to allow that potential client or the person you're talking to engage further, to actually understand your business, and the interest that they want to find out what's the potential, how can we actually do work together, or they're just going to walk away. So really, I think this question of all questions is almost like your break point. It's either a do or die situation for businesses, but I know that if you look at how you do your business, you will be able to answer this question very successfully. Most importantly, I think the answer to that question really looks at three different things that you as a business owner know about your business: your value proposition, your capability statement, and your sales pitch. So ultimately, these three items combined together will actually be able to answer that question on the previous slide. So your value proposition, when you look at it, it sets the stage for defining your uniqueness, your business's uniqueness. Where do you set at in that chain of supply chain? The capability statement is really around your company's resume. We all, as we know, have had resumes in our past when we've been looking for jobs. Well, your company is also looking for jobs, so you should have a company resume. It doesn't provide a lot of information to your potential clients, and we'll go a lot more detail on this. And ultimately, as a sales pitch, it's really how you persuade the potential client to say yes. It's getting to that endpoint of saying yes and sealing the deal. These three components, your value proposition, your capability statement, and how you sell or your sales pitch, will win the bid. So we have to look at those as a combined effort, but ultimately the biggest portion of this is your capability statement, because that sometimes is something that you need out there prior to even your value proposition or your sales pitch. You need to get the interest, and that interest is going to come from your capability statement. What is it, and why is it important? Basically, I look at it as a promotional or marketing tool. And we all have promotional marketing tools within our toolkit. So it's important that it's there. As well, it defines your business, the capabilities and the skills that you offer to your clients. It denotes who you are and what you do. And it's tailored to your audience. This is not a one-shot deal. When you're writing your capability statement, folks, it is truly a statement that's going to be a living document. And why I say a living document, you're going to customize this. You're going to tailor it. It's going to be specific to the client you're engaging with, or the RFP you're replying to, or the tender that you're bidding on. Again, it's going to be customized, and ultimately, the bulk of it's going to be very much the same. It's that difference that's going to make or break that winning bid. Those are the customizations that will come. Why is it important? It provides your target audience with specific information. Most importantly, you have to know your audience in order to make sure that that information is specific to what they need. That information is also going to assist them to make a decision on whether your company moves forward, or your company, they send you a letter and say, thank you very much. I'm hoping that after this, every time you send your capability statement out, that you're going to get the nod to move forward, because it does really help with the business. Most importantly, I think the capability statement, if you look at it, is really a communication tool that shows the potential client at a glance what your business is and what your business can do for them. Although it's very important during COVID-19 timeframes right now, this capability statement is you in person, shall we say. You can't sometimes meet with the client, but your capability statement is you. So you have to make sure that it's tailored to what you want to tell that client or how you want to engage with that client. Because physically you can't be there, but your capability statement is you in in essence, the physical format, shall we say, but in a virtual reality. So just before we go on, resumes, typically we talk about ourselves in the resume, your education, the jobs you worked at. Resumes tend to be about 2 to 3 pages long in duration or length, and it's pretty clear you're giving all the details and laying the foundation as to who you are. But a company's resume, if you look at it, is really a one-page document that clearly and succinctly describes the following information. Your company. Most importantly, your company. And then thereafter, its capabilities. What can you do? How can you do it? And its expertise. What have you been able to do? It really defines you and sets you apart from your competitors and identifies you as the best company to select. How you do this is quite clear. It has your statement, your capability statement has to be clean, clear, and concise. If it's too wordy or too busy, it will cause the potential client maybe not to work through to find out exactly what they need to sift through in order to get to what your capabilities, your expertise are. Again, like a CV, it's a living document, and you will have multiple versions. And when I say that, there's going to be the crux of your capability statement, or probably 80% of it will be the same, but you may have to tailor, and it may be tailored based on the industry sector, because you might cross various industry sectors. So you might want to tailor it on the industry sector. So some of the capabilities and expertise that you had within that specific industry sector. You may also want to look at the services, because again, it may be tailored based on the services that you offer. And because you might offer multiple services. And last but not least, it might be tailored based on your solutions, the types of solutions that you're offering, or your service offerings. But ultimately, if it's a holistic solution or customized solution, again, you might want to hone on that as you're starting to build your capability statement. You have to know why you're doing it and the audience that you're doing it for. And I would say that the purpose of the statement really is to sell, but know your audience. And that's why the tailoring, that 20%, that 15% at the back end is so important, because that's going to make or break somebody moving forward. If you're using the same capability statement for every single job you go on, if those jobs are different, your capability statement should be different. It would not be the same. So really tailor this, because this really talks to your knowledge off that project or off that client or off that tender. What capabilities you have coming in and the expertise that could offer them the solution they need. As we look at this in a little bit more detail, I think most importantly is, what does it contain? How do I know how to build my capability statement? Well, the company overview is most important. Core competencies are imperative to be there. Past performance, how you're different from others. Really, what is that edge that you have? And then, of course, your corporate information and your contact information. Let me talk to this in a little bit more detail so that you have a better understanding of what I mean by that. The company overview is really around your history, the mission, the values of your organization, potentially a little bit about yourself, so that they get a gist of who you are as a company if they don't already know you. But it still gives them a highlight. It does not have to be long, and I'm going to share some examples with you in the next couple slides. It does not have to be long, but you should provide that highlight. When you're looking at the company's skills and qualifications, this will be where your core competencies will come in, your past performance, the difference you make from other companies, your products and services. This would be really what you are, who you are, your skills and qualifications for why you believe you have what it takes to do that job. And most importantly, you also have to make sure that you're sharing relevant information. Some organizations are looking for certifications, they're looking for applicable licenses, they're looking for NAC codes. So that's where the corporate information comes in. So share that on your capability statement. Again, as I share with you some examples, I will point all of these areas out so you get a better understanding. And again, the layout is going to be different on yours, but share this information because people are looking for it. And finally, make sure you provide your contact information. I've had the opportunity and pleasure of working with folks, helping them build their capability statements. And when they give them to me as their first draft, and I can review them and give them feedback, sometimes they forget that most important aspect, which is the contact information. And it's just their first draft, I know that, but how do I get a hold of you? That's most important, because that's going to allow me to have that engagement with you as well. And also, it might be to your sales team that contact information is. It might be to you, the business owner, as that contact information, because you're the first point of contact. So again, who should they contact? And when you're thinking about that contact information, make sure that if it's an email or a phone number, it's being picked up or being reviewed in a timely manner as well. So think about that as you're developing that contact information and what it's going to look like to you. And making sure that if it's sent out there, that people are actually able to, in essence, get in contact with somebody so they can further have a discussion. So what I'm going to do, just prior to going into actually some samples, I'm wondering, does anyone have any questions at this point in the presentation that you want me to answer on the content itself or the why it should be used? Anything that comes up? Is there anything in the chat room? Questions? Not hearing
I
it.
did see one person asking to see an example. I don't know if that was going to be coming up later.
Yes. Okay, then what I'll do is I'll just move on to the examples.
Awesome.
So
and one question, should you have logos of past clients served on this statement?
And I will answer that through these examples as well. You can, and that is a good question. These are some examples, and again, there are different businesses that I'm looking at. So again, hitting different industry sectors. And if you notice, I have taken each of these examples and have pulled out the information so that you can see where the company overview versus the core competencies, the different criteria that I had. There are the different sections. So on this one, the capability statement, this is a consulting firm. And again, what they really want to focus on is the company overview, because you see the length of information in that. They really want to make sure that you know who they are as a consulting firm, their mission, their values. Because in consulting firms, those are really the big ticket items, really the values. And because some organizations are hiring you because you align with their values as well. They also identify here as core competencies. And they talk about these core competencies and what they have to offer. They also, if you look on the left-hand side of the screen, folks, you have the corporate information. Remember, this corporate information, they talk about their team. They look at the certifications, their NAC codes, their DUNS and numbers. Sometimes people are looking for that. And if you're certified with CAMPSI, and corporations will ask what your NAC codes are. So what areas do you sell into? As well, how are you different? Why should I pick you? Now, in this case, from a consulting firm, what they did is they talked about their approach. That's their uniqueness. That's how they're different from other consulting firms. And that's what they've chosen as the unique identifier. And then of course, the contact information is down below. So very nice, easy to read, easy, it's succinct, to the point. If you notice there are bullet points, it's not too wordy, it's quick, it's concise, it's clean. Those are things we have to think about as we're starting to build on this. This is another capability statement. So again, it's a system solutions type of component. So really looking at those solutions from an IT enterprise solutions perspective. You notice again, they have contact information. They put their contact information up at the top. I'm not saying it's good at the top or at the bottom, but make sure it's there. They also have the corporate information, again, on the left-hand side. They put the bulk of their information on the right-hand side, which is core competencies. And again, if you notice, it's a lot within the core competencies. They put their skills and qualifications, their expertise, and as well, they have past performance. Now on this one, again, they don't really have a company overview, and that is because they really wanted to focus on their core competencies. Now this one that could also have been done to be put into RFP, where the RFP actually talks a lot more about the company, what the company has been able to do, and as well, other information. So this might be an appendice. So this might be what an appendice would look like when you actually work with an RFP or a tender or you're bidding on a project. So again, the first one could have actually been about this is the first time I'm handing it to you, so I'm telling you a little bit about my company. This could actually be with an RFP that is an appendice to actually help in making sure that you win that bid. So again, there's a difference in how it's laid out. Also, if you notice, it is a little bit busier, only sometimes it's because of the colors and the way they did their paging and putting the pictures in and stuff like that. It's all up to you and how you guys want to lay this out. Branding is very important, so make sure your branding is consistent throughout, from your web page to your capability statement. If there's a color scheme or a theme, make sure it's there. This is another one. It is Dakota. It basically is a service offering to companies around trucking and the services they offer. Company overview, very short, very concise. Again, core competencies, they line them all up, all bullet form. They're not wordy on this at all, very clean. So I'm going to be able to see if that competency or that what I'm looking for, the service I'm looking for, is there or not there. As well, the corporate information is down below. Relatively clean again, and they let you know what areas they sell within. Over on the right-hand side, they have the contact information. They have their uniqueness. Why would you pick them over somebody else? Always make sure that that's there. You do want to differentiate yourself from your competitors, because there's a lot of people out there that are bidding on the same things you're bidding on. And then of course, to answer the question, past performances. On this one, they put logos in. Before you put logos in and talk about your past performances, make sure you have the right to do so. Do ask your former clients if you can use their logo, or if you can use any information. It could be a testimonial or something like that. If it's a testimonial, keep it very short, sweet, and to the point. But again, great question. People do use these, and it's really important that you understand that you can, but at the same time, make sure you get permission to do so. Because what they're also looking for, these might be your references as it relates to this. Now this one, again, just by putting in that company info, I would say this is almost like a sell sheet for them. So when they're going out and meeting with clients, they're offering this to clients, and they may not really know them. So that's why the company info is there. So again, great layout, very clean, very neat, and very succinct into what the information is. Now, this one seems to be a little bit more wordy, but if you look at it, it's broken down, has all the information that you need there. It's just that it tends to be a little bit wordier. Now remember, they used a good sized portion at the top of their page for a picture. Now they put their company, their organization, the building on it, but again, it's up to you how you want to lay that page out. They chose that. The contact information is at the very top. Again, they go into company overview, about us and their mission. They put a picture on the owner. It's not necessarily needed, but they chose to do that. Then they go into core competencies. They go into past performance. Again, a little bit wordy, but ultimately it fits for what he is trying to sell. And at the same time, the corporate information, which is the NAC codes and company certifications, are all there. And what they've done is the logos down there are really around their certifying bodies. So again, all the information that they need is here, but that again, it's the layout. It is clean in some areas, a little bit wordier in other areas, but it is really dependent on what you want your capability statement to look and feel like. And he might have put his picture there because you may not know him personally, or he wants you to know he is the owner of the company. So when you're dealing with them, this is the person you're dealing with as well. So again, real estate on your page is very important, and the layout is your layout to make. But remember, if you're spending a lot of time with pictures and doing more, taking the page and shortening it for wording, it does get busy. So think about how busy it is. And I will always ask you as a business owner or somebody who is actually doing this on behalf of your business, please make sure that you share this with a few folks, maybe some past clients, some friends, to find out and get some feedback from them. What do they see? What are my core competencies? Do they see them? Are they listed there? Can they actually articulate? So they'll give you really great feedback on what it looks like and how it's feeling to them. Use that feedback to modify. Again, this is my final sample. And so basically, company contract solutions, company overview, their company, their vision, core competencies, and they look at their core competencies. The corporate information, they look at their quals, as well as certifications in there. And then, of course, contact info is at the very bottom. Again, very clean. They have put pictures on there, and they have everything that they need in order for you to know the type of company they are, what they have to offer, and the information that they have around their corporate information. So again, their contact information is at the bottom, but again, very much there. And if you notice within their contact information, they use the word integrity, commitment, and quality. Again, they added their values, just the word itself, but they added their values to helping with making sure that when you're coming down to that last little bit, these are who we are, what we stand for as an entity. So these are just some of the solutions. I'm not saying any one of these layouts is the perfect layout for you. You have to define what your layout is. But in essence, make sure that you have some really good information there. Keep it, I would say, one page. People ask me a lot, should it be 2 pages? Again, when this is coming in front of somebody, depending on what it's being used for, people like the 1 page versus over, because a lot of people don't always just flip over to see what's there. And you also, to me, 1 page should cover you as an organization, because it really defines who you are, and you're succinct, you're to the point, and you're not all over the page. And if I have to flip over the page to find out key information that's on the 2nd page, that ultimately I want to see that on the 1st page. And I would actually advise you to put as much on the 1st page that is going to allow that person to say, yes, you are the vendor of choice, or the consultant of choice. So again, make sure it's as clean as possible on a 1-pager. So hopefully that covered any of the questions that are outstanding right now. Are there any other questions before we move on?
I did see one, well, a specific one. They're asking if you had an example of a marketing Actually, let me make sure I got it right. It was marketing slash advertising company. Let me see.
I don't have
Yeah.
a specific example of a marketing advertising company, but
Okay.
again, it would be, you're going to still follow the same regime here and use still those core aspects of what should be within your statement. And basically, again, you're going to look at your core competencies as a marketing advertising company, your past performance with any clients that you had, how you're different from another company. Why would I pick you over someone else? Your company overview, contact information, and corporate information. So you're still using the same information. And sometimes you don't want to always look at another advertising companies and how they're going to, because you're then going to try to tailor it to meet theirs. Tailor it for you and what your company stands for as your organization. Because really, in essence, if you're not there in person to meet or greet somebody and hand them this information, this is you. This is the virtual you. So does it align with who you are, what your company stands for? I think that's the most important thing.
Awesome. And I guess a couple questions were, is this similar to an executive summary or is it like an expansion of it?
It can be, if you're doing your company overview, it might be somewhat of an executive summary, but I would say what you really want to do is talk about your key skills and competencies as an organization. So executive summary is very similar. Yes, if you're looking at a business plan and you're doing that, the business plan is 13, 14 pages long, you're doing an executive summary, you're pulling all of that up. But understand the business plan, there's a lot of detail in the business plan that really allows them to see who you are. That executive summary, if I was looking at this and saying, what's my executive summary in something like this, it would be my company. A company overview might be your executive summary, 2 lines, 3 lines. But then now you're pulling all that business planning, all that information, and you're pulling it up and just bullet pointing it and making it clear and concise. This is what you do. This is what you offer to your folks. So again, you're actually taking sort of that business plan and pulling it into one document.
Gotcha. And the final question, what is your advice on including past projects? How much details? Similarly, mentioning past clients, is this acceptable?
Yes, you can. And sometimes what folks do is they might take 1 or 2 that, again, is something they did within the last 12 to 18 months, and they might just get a testimonial, like a one sentence from them, not a paragraph, 1 sentence. Or you could actually use them as references, depending on how you're using this. You might want to use it as references within your RFP, but then you might want to put the logos of those clients if they allow you to use logos on there. Again, it is dependent on how you're using the document. That's why one thing I did say at the very front end, this is a living document. So if you're putting logos on and client information, not only do you need permission to do that, but make sure it's relevant. Don't put a logo and a client information on that was 10 years ago. So make sure it's close and to the point. So if you're going to do something like, I would say this has to be updated quite often. Because if I'm putting it on there and I have not used this client, or I have not been working with this client for the last 5 years, again, you want it to be as relevant as possible and current. Any other questions?
All right, awesome. I'll do a quick final check. I didn't think so.
Okay.
This capacity statement also allows for branding. Executive summary is a written content only. So I guess they were just answering as well. Okay, great.
Okay.
Oh wait, what info should you include if your company is new or you're introducing a new product or service and don't have any clients yet?
Again, put it down there. You're building your client. When I'm looking at that, you're building your skills and qualifications. So if you have a new service offering, you can still list it. And at the end of the day, if you're a relatively new company, you're still going to list your service offerings, and you're just going to start looking at how you build that discussion behind the scenes, because you're going to be bidding on something, or you're going to have further discussion. So when they phone and ask questions, then that's when you can start having more discussion with them to find out what they need, what they want, and then what you can offer. And it might be a new offering, and they might be the point that the client is going to take you and say, yes, I do want to take that. So again, you might want to do more bullet forms on that one instead of writing out. And you may not want, if you're a new company, you're not probably going to be using past performance right away. That might be something you use 6 months or 9 months down the road. Although I say use it, if it's not relevant at this point in time in the time frame of your company. If it's a new company, you're not going to have past performances. But if you're a relative company that's 3 to 4 years old, you will have past performances. So you're going to use that. So depending on where your company's at in its life cycle, depends on what you're going to use and how you're going to use it. Hopefully that answers the question.
Awesome. Yes, that was great. So yes, you can go on.
Okay. So best practices in creating a capability statement. I would say the best practice is really look at the following. I'm going to start at the 12 o'clock and sort of go around clockwise. Show what you can do and have done. So make sure that within your capability statement, that in the bullet points, include your core competencies, and make sure that there are short descriptors or products or services that are there that you offer. And this really lets them know what you can do. And then, of course, show what you've done. And that really talks about past performance. And it's utilized a lot, especially if it's an industry sector and you have folks within that industry sector that have taken your or used your services, then start noting that. That's why sometimes this is tailored more for industry sectors, and or if there are particular companies that are using a particular type of service, and then again, you're going to be putting those companies down. But really make sure that you show what you can do and have done in the past. And again, for that person who or company, the question around relatively new, show what you can do. So really highlight on that. And then as you start getting clients and moving on to other clients, then you can start showing what you have done. So that's where you start building your past performance. Explain why you are worth it. Really, your uniqueness should be the point that is going to really make or break. Put it on your capability statement. Differentiator, the difference of who you are and what you do is critical. It's going to actually be very interesting for most folks because they're looking for what's going to take you over the edge. Why should I pick you over the next person? You're both around 95% there, but your uniqueness, the difference that you offer to them, how you're going to work with them, it's not just what you're offering, it might be how you do it. So for the consulting company I showed you, it was their approach. That's what they think is their uniqueness. Someone else might say that it's a service that I offer, it's my uniqueness. So again, make sure you know what that is and put it down there. Do not leave out the basics. This might seem like a simple statement, but including company data is highly important. As I said, when I was walking through someone's, that I was reviewing, when I was walking through their capability statement, they left out the contact information. So I gave the feedback to them and said, really great. And they were like all gung-ho because it was the first time really drafting it. They had a few minor glitches, but overall very minor. And so I said, so how did you feel about writing it? And they said, it was really great, really easy to do now that you've given me the pointers to do it. And I said, so what is the one thing that's missing? And they looked it over and looked it over and looked it over, couldn't understand. And I said, I can't contact you because there's no contact information. So don't leave out the basic things, the little things. So just make sure that you review it and you put anything in there that you're looking for. And if this is also going to be part of your RFP or tender or project submission, make sure it's relevant to that tender, RFP, or project submission. So again, customization on it. Keep it short and sweet. The capability statement should be no longer than 1 page. This is really an overview of who you are and what you do as a company. So I like simplicity, it works best. And that's the way to go. Now, if somebody's asking for more details, they'll probably end up contacting you. Or if you're sending this out and there's a letter introducing yourself, there's a little bit more information that you can put in the letter. But ultimately, this is something that you're probably going to be keeping around as a sales sheet, as well as on your website. Update it often. It's a living document. I can't tell you enough. Do not just create it and leave it sitting on the shelf. Make sure you update it as often as possible. Because ultimately you're updating it based on the skills that you're offering or the qualifications that you have. You're also updating it potentially based on past performances. If any contact information has changed, if any corporate information has changed around certifications. So you're always looking at updating it. So if you put it in a recall for a quarter or twice a year, make sure you're consistently updating it, especially if it's linked to your web page. Know your audience. I can't stress that enough. That's where the customization really comes into place. It's really helping you identify what you're going to put on there, the capabilities you're going to place on there, how they're going to fit, why you're doing it. Because you might have a lot of services that you offer, but if it's industry specific and there's only certain services you offer to an industry, then you'll have potentially a couple different capability statements based on the different industries, because there are different services that you're offering. There are different solutions that you're selling, and it could be actually different past performances that you have also done within those industry sectors. So you might have multiples, as I said, of capability statements. Just make sure you're sending the right one to the right industry. Again, I'm not saying have just one statement if you are crossing various industry sectors and you really want to customize for that industry sector. Emphasize your branding. Keep the formatting of your capability statement neat and easy to follow. If it's too busy, people might, overlook it and just say, look, I can't find what I need here, and they set it aside. Make sure that as you're branding, it's aligning to your web page, it's aligning to your business cards, it's aligning to your letterhead. There's consistency in that brand. If you have a tagline, make sure that that tagline is consistent throughout everything. Branding is important because it is who you are as a company. So again, make sure that you emphasize and clearly make sure that brand is consistent all the way through, and its consistency in the brand. And another thing is to put it on your website. You get it out there in the broader audience. Where we are today with marketing ourselves, and now we're going into a lot of virtual conferences, networking sessions. There's a lot of e-networking opportunities now. In the past, prior to COVID-19, we would be printing these off and taking these with us whenever we're going someplace, just in case you have to. It's just like a business card and you can give it off to somebody. Make sure now it's on your website. So when somebody's going into your website, boom, it's there. Secondly, you can always, when you're connecting with somebody, you can easily flip it over to them if you're talking to them. But I would always make sure that you're putting it on. Now, if you are dealing with different industry sectors, I would suggest that you keep those ones, put a generic one on your website, and more specific if you need to have those discussions and you're using those specific ones. Do not put 3, 4, or 5 of them on your website. It might not be as advantageous because people might pull up the wrong one, and to them, there's no alignment, so you're gone out the picture. So again, really important to make sure you have it on your website. So these are some of the best practices when you're starting to build it, just thinking about how you're going to develop your capability statement for your organization. Now, just before we go on to marketing, are there any other questions around the capability statement prior to moving into the marketing collateral on it? Hearing none, I'll just continue right into the marketing collateral. Okay, so your capability statement in all essence, folks, is a marketing tool. It's an advertising tool. It's a tool that's going to get you, your company, out there in the broader arena. They know who you are, what your company does, what you've been able to do, who you've worked with, everything to know about your company in a snapshot. So it's like a picture. So we had to take a picture of your company, and it's only one picture allowed to take, make sure it's the best picture possible. So when you're looking at marketing collateral, it's any media material used to promote a company's product or service. That's in the print format and or the digital content. And again, a print format and digital content, there should be some linkage there under how you're using it and when you're going to be using it. Print materials, as we know, could be posters, flyers, anything like that that you have out there, catalogs that you print off and send out. It could be magazines that you do and hard copy those magazines and send out. But again, some of this print material can actually be put on your website and be more of a digital content. And that way it can reach a broader audience, because it's just not who you're sending it to, which could be a smaller audience when you think about it, because when it's out there on the net, it's worldwide. So anybody can come in and get to your digital content. So think about how you can use it to communicate your company's brand and messaging to not only who your clients currently are today, but your clients for tomorrow, because it is a huge communication of your company. So again, think about how this is going to be used, because the capability statement is you personified. So you in the virtual format, shall we say. The internet has expanded. You have the opportunity now to expand your growth, but ultimately understand the capability you also have. So make sure if it's a certain area that you are working within. So for example, if you work across Canada, do note something like that on your website, but also make sure that it's there on your capability statement. Because if you don't have an international presence or can't do your work internationally, when you advertise and somebody over in England picks it up and says, oh, I want to work with you, and you don't have a presence there. So again, just make sure that sometimes you talk about the jurisdiction you're working within. And that will help, because it will limit people from coming in and they're not probably going to be your client. Some digital collateral outside of the capability statement, which I think is very important to be digital collateral for you. You have newsletters, blogs, landing sites, or landing pages or pillar pages, case studies, white papers, corporate brochures, product catalogs, digital reports. These are all what we would classify as marketing collateral. There are plenty more that would be classified as marketing collateral. I just named a few here. But if you notice, I use the capability statement, because it's just as important as marketing collateral as anything else you have. So if you have blogs and you think, oh, okay, my social media, my blogs, all that is marketing, your capability statement is just as important and should be addressed and looked at, not as often as your social media, of course, but definitely looked at on a regular basis to make sure it is in alignment with where you are, who you are as a company, and what you want to make sure that the outside folks that are looking at it know about you as a company. So knowing the right amount of text and graphics to use will make your collateral easier to follow and help your audience better retain information. As I said, if it's too busy or too wordy, some people don't like busy, they don't like wordy. If I have to sift through to pull out exactly what you are or who you are or what you offer, I'm probably not going to take the time. If I had 10 of these to look at and the other ones are cleaner, I'm probably going to toss yours aside. So really make sure it's a clean one-page doc. Also, you also want to make sure that you're designing it in a way that builds brand consistency, and you're using design tools that align with who you are. Sometimes we may have to change our printers or our color components. Make sure that you know how the brand is consistent. As I already said, your branding and taglines are huge. Keeping that consistency, who you are as an entity, is very important. It builds awareness, trust, and a following. It's shared. When you have a following, when you have clients that follow you or share information about you, that's the trust factor. They believe in you, they know that you're able to deliver, so make sure that that brand consistency is there. While you're always creating collateral for any awareness, decision-making, or loyalty stages, I suggest you always keep in mind that collateral that, or any collateral that you create for your brand should be consistent. Know your audience, and most importantly, tie it to your audience. Make sure whatever you put in your capability statement is truthful and that you're able to deliver, or that you worked with those companies. Also, at the same time, I earlier mentioned, make sure that those companies that you're using as past performances, that they're relevant or close to the current time frame, because sometimes those companies may no longer be there. So you don't want to work and put something on there 5 years ago, the company's no longer. So especially, I'm not saying COVID-19 has taken down a lot of companies, but make sure you know that the companies are still there and that they're willing to talk on your behalf or speak on your behalf if necessary. And when you're looking at your design tools, make sure that your logos, your colorings, or all the coloring that you're doing, the design, the format, because as you move from one designer to another, make sure that the tools they use are the same. If you yourself are designing this, make sure there's consistency from a printing perspective, especially if you're printing in your own office or anything like that and sending it out. So that, because ink is really, those colors do change when the ink starts to get lower in your printer. So just make sure that you're always looking at that, because again, that then talks to sometimes your brand. And if you're looking at any white papers or anything, or you want to put anything, I would say marketing brochures or anything, you want to note that in your capability statement, make sure that in that capability statement, if you're linking anything to a brochure or catalog or something, especially when you can do linkages on the web, make sure that that link, it can connect. Don't have broken links if at all possible. So do some testing to make sure your links are there. Marketing collateral, if done right, folks, will not only keep your existing clients that you currently have today, they will add new customers to your client base, which will grow your revenue ultimately overall. So as we start to come down to the final couple slides of this particular presentation, capability statements. Again, I'm going to come back. When is it needed? Advertising, promotional purposes. It can be on your website, your LinkedIn page. Again, use it to talk about who you are, what you offer, and what past performances you have done. It can be used, as I said, not only as a standalone document, but part of an RFP. It could be used as part of a tender, part of a project submission. Again, it would be tailored depending on what information is already existing within that main document. And you might want to tailor your capability statement to augment and enhance some of that information. It's great for networking events, sales call, matchmaking events, although most of these events now, networking events, sales calls, and matchmaking are all online. So it's not only good for in-person, undertaking of these events, it's also good for the virtual side of these events as well. The capability statements, typically an appendice, can be used and required in some cases in a bid and proposal submissions. And it just lends to more information about who you are as a company and what you have to offer to your clients. And some of the information that's on there, the corporate information, might not be part of the bid itself, but it's nice to have because they're not specifically asking for it in the bid, but it's nice to have so that it's part of the appendice so they see that it's there. Can be used in a business plan as well, especially for the person who asked the question that you're relatively young organization, new organization. It can be part of your business plan. So as you're planning your business, this really, because when you think about it, a lot of the information that's on your capability statement is coming right out of your business plan or the business that you have right now. So again, great for augmenting your business plan, and can be used to obtain capital and or financing. Again, really important, especially if you're going to the bank. It can offer that information to allow you to get the money you need in order to start your business or add on to your business, the financing side of it. Also, if you're looking for partners or capital, it will help that way as well. So again, great tool to use and should be used when you're looking at some of these components. The tips for creating a capability statement. Use terms known by the decision makers. That's where the customization comes in. If it's industry specific in their industry terms, use them. If it's solution-based terms, use them. Know who this is being sent to, and know what should be used or the terms that should be used at that time frame. So again, great opportunity to really say, we're always have to customize before we send this out. Also indicates knowledge of the contracting process. So knowing that you're contracting constantly or RFPing or doing submissions, again, great opportunity to know, because when you're honing it or customizing it, you're actually reading through the RFP, you're reading through the tender, you're reading through the project submission, and you're actually honing and customizing this particular capability statement for that. Use your firm's logos and branding elements. Make sure there's consistency. As I said, taglines, stuff like that, colors, even fonts for that matter. Make sure that there's that consistency and you're always using that. It should be paragraph free as much as possible. Outside of the company overview, try to be as bullet formed as possible. That then causes you to really hone in on what you need to say and how you need to say it instead of using all kinds of paragraphs. Makes it cleaner for you for the person to read and get the information they need from it. Use short sentences, bullet list, as I just noted. A one-pager. People have asked if they can use two-pagers. Again, I say you can, but be very clear that the one page at the front page should have as much information on there as possible, because some people do not turn over to the second page. So I always try when I'm working with clients to move them to a one-page format. To me, it's easier, it's cleaner, and I'm not too wordy, because if you go into a two-page, it could get a little bit too wordy, and you lose the reader or the decision maker through this process. A PDF format. For distribution, for sure, because basically a lot of this is going to be electronically distributed. So make sure it is a PDF format. If in the future, or you have the opportunity to meet somebody face to face, you can always use a glossier format or a thick paper. And where we are today currently with COVID-19, people don't want to always share a lot of paper. They want to do everything electronically. So make sure that you do it and send it in a PDF format. And when you do PDF it, go back and look at it just to make sure everything is there, because sometimes depending on where your margins are, it might cut off things. So just again, and even if you have to print it out, because it might look good when you're looking at it, but do a print, and it will let you know if everything is there, the top margin, bottom margin, left and right, okay? And know your audience. Again, understand who you're sending it to, who the decision maker is, word it appropriately, make sure the information that it should be there is there. You are the best person who knows your audience, so make sure that you're tailoring it to meet that audience. Basically, a well-made capability statement equals understanding, familiarity, and trust of your brand. That in turn will give you prime contracts and subcontracting, AKA money, money, money. So folks, if nothing else, this tool will help you to move forward in your business. It's not going to potentially make millions for you, but it's going to allow you to increase your revenue if done correctly. And again, it's a customized tool. It's not a tool that once you do it and a document that just sits there on the shelf. It's a living document. It has to be used time and time again. It has to be updated consistently before you send it out. Make sure you know who it's supposed to be going to. You can make sure you're using the right words, the right bullets, whatever that looks like or need is. So folks, thank you very much, and I'm opening it up to questions.
Awesome. I did see a couple questions. One, when is the right time to provide a capability statement? So I do believe you answered that. And is there a need to have a DUNS number when submitting bids?
Depending on who you are sending it to, some folks will ask for a DUNS number, some folks don't. NAC codes are probably, from a certification perspective, the most important aspects. But DUNS numbers, there are some folks that do actually put that on there, but I have also seen capability statements without it. So it is going to be dependent on if they require it, then you should have it on there.
All right, awesome. I didn't see any other questions. We can open it up if you did want to unmute if you had a specific question and you didn't have time to type it. Let me just cycle through to make sure.
And as I'm waiting for you to just look to see if there are any questions, folks, this is my contact information. I have no problems if you want to send me. I'll give you roughly a 15-minute allotment. I'll give you some feedback, just review it for you and just give you some feedback. But again, it really is, it's incumbent on you as a business owner to define your own. I'm not going to tell you the type of layout or format. I'll just give you feedback back on really true just content, because again, and you guys have to determine what the best content is. I'm not going to pull out content from your business. I think each of us as business owners knows what we do and what we do well. And I think you have a capability statement, just like a CV personally, it should be your best foot forward. So make sure that when you're doing it, it's the best that your company has to offer, aligned to that business that you're going towards or the industry sector that you're in.
Cynthia, I want to thank you so much for the information. It was actually great. This is Anton here. I just want to get some feedback with you. Unfortunately, I apologize in advance. I missed the first portion of what of your presentation. I was having some challenges getting on. Are you based out of the U.S.? And that's the first question, one. And two, pending upon that, because I noticed you mentioned a lot of NAICs, and typically speaking, I don't see that as much up here. The SIC codes, etc. But do you find that, is there a better way to segment an audience other than NAICs, or is that specifically because for someone that wants to go into larger segments? Because typically what I have found in the past is when you're going for the large, I'd call it an elephant type clients, that's large. But what about for those going after a more small to medium size?
Okay, to answer your first question, I'm Canadian, from Nova Scotia. So my business resides in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Secondly, I use NAC codes. I'm a certified supplier with Canadian Aboriginal Minority Supplier Council. And as a certified supplier, you typically go into exactly what you said, some industry sectors. So organizations would know who you sell into. So that's why the NAC codes would be there. If you are a company that you're not certified yet, and but you still want to sell, you don't need the NAC codes. But if you're in an area that requires you to have NAC codes, then I would suggest you put them on there. It's not necessary to have them. But if you have certifications for that matter, I would suggest you put those on there if certifications are required. But it is going to be dependent on what is required on who you're selling to. So I would put NAC codes on mine if I was working with companies that would be Fortune 500 type companies. They'll be looking to find out, have you sold or are your services available within this industry sector? Does that answer your question?
Thank you so much. I appreciate the feedback. And by the way, thank you for the information. It was actually good.
Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. And yes, because I do know this is kind of an overview on what you should be looking at for what your capability statement should look like. We are ACBN, the BBPA, and CAMC looking to try and pull Cynthia into a deeper dive, but there would be an approximate cost for that. So we're trying to work out the details. But if this is something that you may have tried on your own and do want to go a bit deeper with a bit more guidance, we will try and put together that type of working group in the near future. And I do see a Galaxy S8 hand raised.
Yeah, hi, it's me, Jim Walters. I just want to ask a quick question because I already have my my website up, you know, with coming soon introduction on it, and I haven't done a brochure. I was going to do a brochure, but what I want to ask Cynthia is, would a brochure and a capability statement work together, or would you say, I'm sending out brochures, would it be good to have a capability statement, even though it's going to have most of what the brochure will probably have most, it's more like a website, but not as many pages?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How would you?
They would work slightly differently, because if I needed to look at your information because I'm going to buy from you, if it's, say, for example, clothing, or if you have products and services that are very extensive, a brochure is something definitely that you need as a business, because it's going to be pages of information, and I'll be pulling out what I need to order from you, because it's more of an ordering platform. A capability statement just lets a company know what you can offer to them. So if you're into really selling product and or service, then what you're able to do is the capability statement, it tells you who you have sold your product or service to, the types of products or services, and you can use that capability statement to have a link, especially in digital, to your brochure. Because some people might come in and look at your capability statement and not at your brochure right away. Or they might look at your brochure and say, okay, then this aligns with me. Or what else do they have to sell? I'm only on one brochure, or something else, and your capability statement will let you know. Especially if you're starting out and you're now starting to expand. So it also gives you the opportunity to find out from a capability statement perspective, maybe the market you might want to sell into as well. So that you can just go out there, and instead of just sending out the brochure, because you might not have product for that particular market, but it might be something that you use to say, these are some of the things that we can do. And then you're actually nudging that market to find out, is there an opportunity to expand my brochure or my product line to meet this market? Or how do I expand my services or products to meet that market?
Okay, thank you. Mine is a home care, in-home care services. So thank you. It's services. So thank you. Okay,
wonderful.
Thanks.
Yeah, if there was any other questions, the floor is yours. I believe Kara just put into the group. NAICS codes are industry standards used widely by governments and generally in all industries to categorize products and services using a universal language. Yeah, I do find it is good to research what your code is or find the closest one, just so it helps you segment where your service offering or product fits. And so Cynthia, just to confirm, we are getting asked if the PowerPoint slides would be available. Do you know which ones might be?
I can share with you some of the PowerPoint slides, and I'll hand those over to you, Ryan, so you can distribute appropriately.
Awesome, much appreciated. And we're getting a lot of thank yous. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for the session. And I guess we can wrap up there. We have come to the end of our session today. So I would love to thank Cynthia for sharing your insights and everyone who joined us today. The sentiments are very, yeah, I'll put my info, but everybody will get an email from me after this anyway. Also, there will be a feedback form put into the chat. I'll put it in right now. And also, hold on, feedback link. And also you'll get an email that has the slides that Cynthia provided, and also, did that link work? Yeah. And also the feedback form again. We'd love to get your comments and let us know what we can improve for the structure of it for the next session. And also if you want to do a deeper dive, we'd love to arrange that for you. And as previously indicated, this is the first in a series of 4 webinars focused on the development of your business as you prepare for and anticipate, strategic alliances for economic inclusion. Any questions you may have going forward, please do not hesitate. Please do also reach out to Cynthia if you have specific questions around capability statements. And she does work with clients if you wanted to bring her on board to do a deeper one-on-one dive. If there are any recommendations and or comments you wish to share with us on the topic, I did put the link in there for the feedback form. And also please keep an eye out on your emails, ACBN, BBPA, and TAMC websites for future registration details. But that same link that you signed up for the capability statement, you would be able to now sign up for the next workshop. Actually, I will pull that up so you can see the specific date. So the link is a series of capability building workshops and sessions. Hold on, where are the different dates? So the first one was today, July the 13th. The second one will be August the 10th, Understanding Your Financial Health. And then the industry alignment will be on August the 31st. And Becoming Marketing and Social Media Savvy will be September the 21st. So that link again will be in the emails that go out after this workshop. And it's the same Eventbrite. You can sign up for the other workshops. All right. And again, so thank you again so much for joining us today. We encourage you to spread the word to your colleagues, and we look forward to seeing you at the next series or webcast on August the 10th. Take care.